There's a highway that cuts across Illinois, stretching from Chicago's bustling streets into quiet towns where time seems to linger. At night, the asphalt hums beneath your tires, whispering stories of travelers who came before. Neon signs flicker outside. The towering Gemini giant looks like a silent centennial in the dark. The old Joliet prison casts long shadows over the road, while bridges creak with the weight of secrets they've carried for nearly a century. Some say you can hear voices in the abandoned motels or see figures standing just beyond the glow of your headlights. Whether it's the ghosts of prisoners, long-gone travelers, or something older still, the road near Illinois is alive with echoes. Few roads carry as many legends. Few roads are as unforgettable as Route 66. I'm Ash, and I'm the daughter.
I'm Liz, and I'm the mom.
And this is The Lesser Known. So we're kind of shifting gears with our regular episodes from here on out. We're still talking about lesser known stories, attractions, hauntings, and places within common areas. But instead of just national parks, we're going to talk about roads, trails, and other parks like state parks and things like that, or places that people have either mentioned to us or, you know, that we see that look like they have interesting stories and hauntings associated. Instead of dividing our episodes into like my episode and my mom's episode, we're going to just combine them. So as I talk about the places along the way, the top 5 attractions, my mom is going to do her own little spooky thing if there's anything along the way. So like it's kind of a continuation. So like as I go along the route, she's also going to stop me whenever she has something for that area. In this episode, we're talking about Route 66, in case you didn't get that from the intro. And this will be a series of top 5 attractions along the route in each state. So today we're diving into Illinois, since it's where Route 66 all started. So most people know of Route 66, but if you don't, it's nicknamed the Mother Road, which comes from John Steinbeck's novel, The Grapes of Wrath, which was released in 1939. Where he describes Route 66 as the Mother Road because of the migration westward. Despite this name, Route 66 wasn't the first U.S. highway or the longest, which I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
But it became iconic because it linked rural towns to bigger cities, giving many communities their first taste of like economic growth from automobile travel, because that wasn't like a huge thing. That's kind of why it's famous. While other roads have plenty of stops, Route 66 became the poster child for quirky roadside attractions because it ran through so many small towns that relied on tourism. So that's why there's so many stops along the way. These top 5 attractions aren't even close to how many stops are along the way. There's like a ton. Its total length is 2,448 miles, stretching from Chicago to Santa Monica, California. It crosses through 8 states: Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. It was decommissioned in 1985. It was officially removed from the U.S. highway system, but has lived on as a cultural icon. Unlike many other old highways, Route 66 roadside towns and attractions were preserved and revived by enthusiasts after the road was decommissioned. And you'll notice that today as we talk about it, there's like a lot of people who group together to like prevent things from being torn down. And so that's why they stayed. Let's talk about some of the attractions riddled along the highway and maybe some weird, creepy things associated with them. Route 66 started in downtown Chicago at the intersection of Adams Street and Michigan Avenue. So if you're downtown, you can actually go by the original sign and take some pictures, which I thought was really cool.
That's cool. Oh, I wish I would have known that when we were just
I know,
there.
me too.
Dang.
I know. But that's just one of the many that are along this highway. The Illinois stretch is roughly 300 miles from Chicago to the Mississippi River, which is where St. Louis starts or Missouri starts. It takes about 5.5 hours and runs through 90 plus communities, which is why it's considered one of the states along this route that has the most attractions. So I think the theme is the more towns and stuff that are along the route, the more attractions. So from Chicago, we're going to move on to Joliet. So that's going to be like our first actual stop other than the sign. And I think along the route, there is a haunting.
This is right outside of Chicago. So if you've lived in Illinois or around that area, you've probably heard this story told around the campfire. It's such a strong legend. It's been told by so many people, but it's worth the retelling if you haven't heard it. So it's after midnight on Archer Avenue. The road is empty except for one man driving from work. His headlights slice through the fog, and then he sees her. A young woman is standing on the shoulder of the road. She looks lost, pale, in a white dress, heels, and her arms are wrapped tight around herself like she's cold. Against his better judgment, he pulls over. "Need a ride?" he asks. She nods and then slips into the back seat and whispers an address a few miles down Archer. The ride is silent. Every time he checks the rearview mirror, she's sitting perfectly still, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Finally, he pulls up to the house. He turns to tell her they've arrived, but the back seat is empty and the smell of roses lingers in the car. Confused and unsettled, he comes back the next day. He knocks at the door and an older woman answers. "I think I gave your daughter a ride home last night," he says carefully. "A young woman, maybe about 20, blonde hair, white dress. She said she lives here." The woman's face pales. She disappears into the house for a moment and then returns holding an old black and white framed photo. "Was this her?" she asks. His blood runs cold. It's the exact girl he saw on Archer Avenue. The woman clutches the frame to her chest, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's Mary. That's my daughter. But she died in 1934. So that's it. Have you heard that one before?
I don't know. I feel like I have, but I didn't think it was there because we have a similar road in Indiana, like the back road, where you'll see like lanterns and stuff coming at you, and then you pick up people. I don't know.
I think that's Stagecoach Road, right?
Maybe, yeah. But no, I don't think I've heard that. I haven't heard the roses thing either.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, her story, it started in Justice, Illinois, and Archer Avenue. So along Route 66, you'll notice it's sometimes called other things, like a lot of main roads. Like it's Route 66, but somewhere it's Archer Avenue, somewhere it's like other names. So that's why this is Archer Avenue. With Mary, back in the 30s, a young woman named Mary was out for a night of dancing, and it was at the O. Henry Ballroom. And so anyone from the area now would know it as Willowbrook Ballroom. So it's still there. She got into an argument with her date, and then she stormed out, and she was like, "I'm just going to walk home." And it was like the middle of the night. She decides to walk home on this back road. But it turns out she never made it. So the story says she was hit by a car and killed along Archer Avenue, right near Resurrection Cemetery. After that, drivers started seeing the same thing. It's always a young woman. She's blonde, white party dress, walking along the road. Sometimes she looks lost. When people stop to give her a ride, she gets in. And this is told a couple of different ways. Sometimes she'll give an address or tell them to drive her towards Resurrection Cemetery. She disappears in front of Resurrection Cemetery. Other times she disappears in front of this house. And I don't know the address of the house. I tried to find it. So, and there's also a creepier version where this one guy in the 70s, he said that he went to like a party, like basically in this ballroom. He saw this girl, they were dancing, laughing, joking, and he went to give her a ride home. And then it was the same thing where she gave the address, but then disappeared in front of Resurrection Cemetery. So it was like, he actually interacted with her. It was like he just thought she was like a regular girl. So that's another version of it.
So they had like a full conversation and everything.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were like hung out all night. And they said that it doesn't just come from one or two people. For nearly a century, cab drivers, couples, truckers, and dozens of different witnesses have all described the same girl. Another one in the 70s, the driver actually watched her run into the locked cemetery gates. Like she ran through the gates.
That's creepy.
And they don't actually know exactly who she is. I tried to look it up, and there's a few It's not so much that she's buried in Resurrection Cemetery. She got hit out in front of Resurrection Cemetery. So I think that's why she's always trying to go back to that area. Because they can't quite find a grave that matches the description of her, because they found a Mary Boulevard, something. It begins with a B. She had dark hair. It just didn't really match the description. So if you're ever driving down Route 66 around Resurrection Cemetery, just keep an eye out.
At night. Is there any specific time that it happens or no?
A couple have said like around midnight, but I think it's just at night.
All right. So I don't know if you're going to be driving late night on the retired Route 66, but if you find yourself there after that, if you want more spooky stuff, I think you have a spooky thing associated with this too, but I'll kind of go over the background. So it's going to be Joliet, which is like an hour and a half from Chicago. The most common attraction here is the old Joliet prison, which is now the Joliet Correctional Center. This prison was and is a massive stone prison that opened in the late 1800s and closed in 2004. It's famous today for being the filming location for the Blues Brothers and Prison Break, but there's a lesser known and eerie story that ties to its history. So back in the late 1800s, inmates quarried, which is like where they like gathered limestone, like dug it out and gathered it, the same local limestone that built the prison walls. That same stone was also used for making the tombstones for prisoners who died inside. The result was that many of the men who carved the prison walls and cell blocks also carved the very headstones that would later mark the graves of fellow inmates, sometimes even their friends.
Yikes.
Yeah. So they were like basically building their own gravestones. Or like making them.
Yeah, when a serial killer takes them out to the woods and they're like, dig your own grave.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how it was. They were like gathering this limestone, and some was made for the walls of the prison, and some was used to make headstones, and it could have been years later. And then, yeah, someone carved her name into it. Within 20 years of opening, the prison was filled well over capacity, with reports of unsanitary and dangerous conditions emerging by the early 1900s. The prison held a few notorious criminals, such as serial killer John Wayne Gacy and Richard Speck, along with the crime of the century murderers Leopold and Loeb, who were all incarcerated within the walls. After nearly 150 years of operation, the prison was closed in 2004 by Illinois Governor George Ryan as a budgetary measure, leading to its abandonment. So that's all I have for interesting facts about Joliet. Was there any hauntings associated?
Yeah, Joliet's one of mine too. Do they still let people go visit it?
It's like a tourist attraction now.
Okay, because I thought so, but then when you said that, I was like, oh shoot, maybe they did close it. And I don't.
No, it was just closed for having like holding prisoners.
Okay.
Yeah, like you can still go there and visit.
As a prison.
Yeah.
I do have some hauntings at Joliet Prison, and even ghost hunters went there. So,
I saw that. Yeah.
It's legit when that happens.
Yeah.
So, some of the general hauntings are phantom footsteps in the hallways, doors slamming shut, voices, whispering in the darkness, full-bodied apparitions, which are my favorite.
I love those.
They think that the full-body apparitions are probably guards or inmates still like roaming around. And tour guides say that sometimes people feel like they're being grabbed by an invisible hand, or they have like their shirt gets tugged and yanked, or something's like holding their arm. So it's like creepy kind of stuff. There's the smell of blood near the showers. So I don't know if there was like a lot of murdering being done there. They say that there's a 7-foot male apparition in a blue jumpsuit. It's one of the scariest reoccurring sightings, and a lot of people have seen it, and he's just like unusually big. Like it's not just like a regular sized person. On Ghost Hunters, they actually did catch this. Kind of. It's like, it was on the thermal camera and it was a little bit far away, but you can see it like walk across the screen. Another thing they caught was on Ghost Hunters was a female voice, which that was a little. They did have female inmates, but they think that It could also potentially be this. Back in the summer of 1915, the warden and his family lived in the warden's quarters. So, like, wardens actually lived within the prison. The warden's wife, her name was Odette, and they said that she was like the heart of the prison. Like, she had this beautiful, angelic voice. She would like sing all the time. Like, she was just like people just loved her being, loved her being around. But then on June 20th, 1915, everything changed. The night before, Odette had gone out with her stepchildren to the movies. They came home late. She went to bed, and the next morning there was smoke pouring from her bedroom. Guards and firefighters rushed in. They broke down the door. They were like hoping to, wake her up, get her out. But they ended up just finding her body in the bed. She had been bludgeoned. Her skull was crushed. And then someone tried to set fire to cover it up. Like, there was alcohol. Like, it was obviously purposeful that they set this fire. They described it as brutal and shocking. The suspicion quickly fell on an inmate that would help them out in the house, which seems a little strange to me anyway. Like why would you have an inmate as your housekeeper? But the guy's name was Chicken Joe Campbell, and I guess he was he was trusted. He used to drive them around. He used to clean. He used to act like a servant. And the evidence was weak. But you know how when they want to try to blame somebody for something, and he had the most access, so they ended up, convicting him of this. He lived out the rest of his days behind bars, and the whole time he was like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Like, I would never hurt her.
That's really sad if he actually didn't do it.
I know. So anyway, that's where Odette became part of this legend. To this day, the warden's residence is rumored to be haunted. And on some of the tours of the prison, guides tell visitors that the spirit of Odette still lingers. Around July of 1932, locals in Joliet began hearing singing from the old convict cemetery at night. They said it was usually around midnight. And the singing was described as hymn-like, sometimes sounded almost like religious hymns or like Latin. It was very different. It wasn't just a modern song. And they said that it happened so much that crowds would gather to hear this. So
yeah,
they think that was Odette singing in the cemetery.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's all I had for Joliet, the hauntings.
The other attraction that's in Joliet, just off Route 66, is Rialto Square Theater. Have you heard of this?
A little bit.
It was built in 1926, and it was designed as a palace for the people. It was inspired by European opera houses, and the style was a mix of Greek and Roman influences, and it was often nicknamed the Jewel of Joliet. Its round architecture is modeled after the Hall of Mirrors in Palace of Versailles in France. The lobby chandelier is so big and so grand that it got a nickname of the Duchess. And it stands 20 feet tall and weighs 2.5 tons and is made of 2,500 crystal pieces.
I would not want to stand under that thing.
I know. It could fall at any time. In its heyday, it hosted burlesque-type stars, silent films, and later big Hollywood stars. In the 1970s, the theater was nearly torn down, but like I said before, locals raised funds to save it. This was one of the places. And it was placed under the National Register of Historic Places. When it was restored, comedian and actor Kevin James, the King of Queens actor, filmed his stand-up special Sweat the Small Stuff in the Rialto Theater in 2001.
Oh, that's cool.
I know. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that's just a little interesting fact and a little bit of history behind that if you're there. Did you have anything for it?
I do, but don't. The locals call it the Rialto to Rial Ghost Story, and it was named after the Rialto Theater in Joliet, which Ashley just talked about. It's between two spots, and travelers have reported seeing shadow figures, human-shaped silhouettes dart across the highway in the dead of night. And sometimes they say that you can see just flickers of shadows running on the side of the road, out of your car light. One driver swore he slammed on the brakes for what looked like a man sprinting across the road, only to find the figure vanished on impact. And another claimed that a shadow leaned into his car windows as he slowed down, like it was trying to look inside the car.
Ew.
Yuck.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. They think that this happened because back in the day when Route 66 was new, it didn't have a lot of lights. And so there was tons of accidents along that stretch. They think that these are the ghosts of the people who got in the accidents and they're just kind of just still wandering the roads.
Yeah.
So if you ever find yourself between Joliet and I think it's Wilmington, just beware of kind of like with Resurrection Mary, you might find some shadow figures and accidentally hit a ghost with your car.
Yeah, just beware of the ghosts running across the street.
And peeking in.
That's creepy.
It's very creepy.
So Towanda is about an hour and a half away from Joliet near Bloomington. Along this route is a curve in the road that is responsible for many deaths and was nicknamed Dead Man's Curve. The sharp curve is almost a 90-degree turn. It's very narrow and only about 18 feet wide and two-way traffic without like modern safety infrastructure like signs and lights and stuff like that. It was notorious for fatal car crashes in the early days of automobile travel. Cars weren't built for speed or safety back then, and the poor road lighting plus high speeds led to countless wrecks. Locals began calling it Dead Man's Curve because so many drivers either misjudged the bend or lost control. It became a cautionary tale parents told young drivers. When the curve was eventually bypassed by a straighter stretch of Route 66 in 1951, locals still preserved like that part of it, and now it's just used as like a walking, biking trail instead. Today you can stand on that very stretch of road that was once feared by all these drivers. And there was also a house located just west of the curve that was repeatedly hit by vehicles, and eventually a semi-truck ran off the road, knocked the house off its foundation, and after that the house was removed, obviously. So I'm pretty sure that's why, like, that was like the turning point. They're like, all right, you know, now they just knocked a house down off the road and we need to make it safer.
Yeah, no
and
way.
Ironically, Towanda was named it like before this curve was built, but the village's name is said to mean burial ground in Native American language.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird. Like, it was already named that, and then all this stuff happened.
On this same stretch around this corner, at night, people report seeing a woman in white suddenly appear on the road, and some believe she's a bride who had died in a carriage crash on that bend, and others say she was a hitchhiker struck by a car, which either could be, you know, could work.
Very possible.
And then, so people slam on their brakes to avoid her, and then she vanishes. And some witnesses say she doesn't just stand in the road, but she walks directly towards their car. And then as they lock eyes with her, she disappears into the mist. And then investigators reported cold spots, like phantom headlights also. The sound of tires screeching around that road.
Weird.
Ugh. Creepy.
I know. Yeah, there's been like a lot of deaths. It didn't say exactly how many, and it didn't really say like super specifics, except for the semi-truck one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a lot. I just realized that there was a spider in here yesterday, and I completely forgot. And now I'm nervous.
I'm sure he's gone about his business.
I don't know. He was like dangling from the ceiling, and I'm sure it's fine. I'm just gonna put my feet up. I'm just like scared he's gonna land on my head now, because I completely forgot until I saw another something dangling in that corner. So second to last on the list is Collinsville, Illinois, which is about 2.5 hours from Towanda, and there you'll find something called Miners Theater. Built in 1918, the theater was funded by local coal miners through the Collinsville Union Miners Association. Was originally designed for union meetings and business. It also hosted plays, movies, union meetings, political speeches, and social events. At one point, it was the largest gathering space in the region. The building is a neoclassical style, which was unusual, and it reflected miners' pride and ambition to bring high culture to their town.
Cool.
After it closed in the 1980s, the theater was saved from demolition by local groups who raised money to renovate it and kind of restore it to what it is now. Oh, I guess that's all I had for it.
To what
I thought there was more to it. What it is now. So you can go visit it and see how they restored it, I guess, to what it is now.
Exactly.
Lastly, we have the Chain of Rocks, which is located about 30 minutes from Collinsville on the border of Missouri and Illinois. So this is kind of like where we're going to start off. I mean, we're going to talk about this right now in Illinois since it was on the Illinois side, but the Chain of Rocks actually kind of starts in Missouri too. Built in 1929, the mile-long bridge has an unusual 22-degree bend in the center. This was done to allow river navigation around water intakes, but it makes the bridge feel eerie and disorienting when you walk across it. At the time of construction, it was considered an incredible feat of engineering carrying traffic over the Mississippi for decades. When it was first built, drivers actually had to pay a toll to cross, and it was 25 cents for cars and 5 cents for passengers, which doesn't sound like a lot today, but during the Great Depression, it was steep. So many people avoided it unless absolutely necessary. And locals were actually so frustrated with the tolls that they once tried to blow up the toll booth with dynamite in protest.
Oh. Well, that's no way to handle things.
But the tolls continued until 1966 when the bridge was turned over to the city. But the exploding toll booth story remains one of those like odd little things that travelers never hear about. But I think it's funny because it's like that didn't stop them. So even if the toll booth blew up, the person was still there the next day.
The guy's just going to be
cash.
outside the toll booth. He's like, yeah, you should hear this funny story about this toll booth that blew up, but 25 cents, please.
Yeah, they're like little trolls instead because they don't have a booth. They're just hiding under the bridge instead. So from 1936 to 1968, it became one of the main Mississippi crossings for Route 66 travelers. It was used as a filming location for the movie Escape from New York. On April 4th, 1991, two sisters, Julie Carey, who was 20 years old, and her 19-year-old sister Robin, went to the bridge with their cousin Thomas Cummins. They loved going to the river, and that night they came to the Chain of Rocks Bridge for an adventure, to look at the graffiti and the view and enjoy the thrill of just being out somewhere they shouldn't after dark. But instead of a harmless night of fun, they crossed paths with four men, brothers Reginald and Marlon Gray, and their accomplices Tony and Daniel Winfrey. At first, the men acted casual, even friendly, and hung out with them, but things turned quickly. The group was robbed, threatened, and then brutally assaulted. When it was over, the Carey sisters and their cousin were forced to the edge of the bridge, and the men ordered them to jump into the black Mississippi water below. Thomas tried to resist and was shoved over the rail, but by sheer luck, he hit a support beam, clung to it, and eventually pulled himself to shore. Julie and Robin weren't so lucky. Thomas reported the incident, and Julie's body was recovered 3 weeks later, carried miles downstream by the river's current. Robin's body, however, was never rediscovered. And I'm not saying that like this happened, but what if you were to like survive that incident and like you had the chance to fake your own death? Like they never found her body, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you do that? Would you like want a new life?
No, I like my life,
Yeah.
but I could see if someone was like unhappy with or trying to get out of like a bad, sometimes there's women who are trying to get out of a bad relationship or something like that, then I could see them doing that. But
yeah,
I
wouldn't want to restart my life.
I wouldn't either.
It just seems like a lot. But
yeah, I've put a lot of work into this life.
Well, and I do wonder if like, just if she did live and she was just afraid, so she ran. Yeah. I don't know. I always wonder that when people's bodies aren't discovered.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
But
agree.
Anyway, I just thought I'd ask. The murders shocked the region. The trial stretched on for years, ending with death sentences for two of the men who were actively involved and long-term prison sentences for the others. The Chain of Rocks Bridge is remembered for its engineering and its role in Route 66 history, but beneath all the steel and concrete is a tragedy that refuses to stay buried. And for some, walking the bridge at night isn't just unnerving, it's like walking beside ghosts. So, are there any ghosts associated with the bridge?
There are. But ever since that night and back in 1991, they say that at night it just kind of shifts, like the feeling of it, the energy, everything just kind of shifts there. And people hear screams in the wind. They can barely hear it, but it's sharp enough for you to notice. And then sometimes there's a voice of a woman calling for help, but when you go looking, there's nobody there. And then they say the creepiest story of a woman in white. The woman appears right in the middle of the bridge, just standing there totally silent. They say at first she looks real, like maybe a hiker or someone who's lost. But then you notice she's not standing at all. She's actually hovering at the end of the bridge.
Oh.
And then before you realize what's going on, she vanishes into the mist. It's like the river is pulling her back under. There's a story of a hitchhiker in that same over the bridge. And they say that drivers have seen a girl step out from the shadows trying to wave them down. But as soon as they start to slow, she's gone. She just disappears. And then a lot of people think that that's Robin Carey because her body was never found.
Oh.
So they think that she's still kind of like stuck in that area.
It makes sense if like her body isn't recovered that she would stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that happens. Like they want to stay with their body almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. Until they're like put at peace. Because you know how people say that.
I do. Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had for Illinois. Was there anything else?
No,
that you had?
that was my last story too.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so that was Route 66. Next, we're going to talk about the Missouri stretch of Route 66. And then we'll kind of just work our way to California. And California will be the end of the series.
I'm excited about this because so many people have heard of Route 66 and so many people know it's like has so many legends and creepy, weird stuff and like also quirky stuff and, you know. Okay, so we'll see you guys.
We'll see you guys next time for the Missouri side.
See you in Missouri.
Okay, bye.
Bye.